All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're diving deep into the super high-stakes world of drug development, and we're going to look at a totally revolutionary strategy that's changing the game for the medicines of tomorrow.
So, let's start with a really big question. Have you ever stopped to think about why it takes, like, a decade and billions of dollars to bring a new drug to market, only for most of them to completely fizzle out and never even see a pharmacy shelf? What is going on there?
Well, the answer is probably not what you think. It's usually not because the drug doesn't actually work. Nope. The number one reason new drugs fail, by a long shot, is all about safety. We're talking about unforeseen toxicity and nasty side effects that kill these promising new medicines late in the game.
This whole journey from a scientist's lab to your local pharmacy is so incredibly difficult, so fraught with peril, that people in the industry actually call it the Valley of Death. And the main monster lurking in that valley isn't that the drug is ineffective, it's these unexpected safety bombs that go off after years of work and millions of dollars have already been poured in.
And that right there leads us straight to the heart of it all, the billion-dollar problem.
So you gotta understand how things used to be done. The old way was you'd find a cool new molecule, you'd spend all your time and money making it work really, really well, and then, way at the end of the process, you'd finally test it for safety. It was a massive gamble. The new way, it completely flips that script. Now the goal is to predict safety right from the get-go, before you sink all that time and money into it.
It really is all about flipping the script. It's a huge shift from that old discovery-at-all-costs mindset to a much smarter safety-first approach. It's a fundamental change in philosophy, really.
So how in the world do they do that? How do you predict safety so early? Well, it all boils down to this one super important acronym, ADMET. It stands for absorption, distribution, metabolism, excretion, and toxicity. You know, these 5 properties basically control everything a drug will do once it's inside your body, whether it's going to help you or, potentially harm you.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty of what flipping the script actually looks like in practice. The entire philosophy, the new mantra for everyone in this field, is fail fast and fail cheap. The idea is actually pretty simple, but it's so powerful. If a drug is doomed to fail, you want to find that out as early and as cheaply as you possibly can, not after 10 years in a billion-dollar clinical trial.
And they pull this off through a process called computational triage. I mean, get this, scientists can now design thousands of virtual drug candidates right on a computer. Then they run them all through these predictive ADMET models. This whole in silico testing process works like a superfine filter, making sure that only the absolute best, the safest, and most effective molecules ever get to move on to the expensive real-world lab tests.
And look, this isn't some far-off sci-fi concept. This digital crystal ball is real, and it's all powered by some incredibly sophisticated software like BioVia's Discovery Studio that can run these amazing simulations.
Which, of course, brings us to our next section, the pharmacist's crystal ball.
Okay, so we've got this digital crystal ball. Sounds cool, right? But what does that actually mean? What kind of, life or death questions can this thing really answer before a drug is ever even physically made in a lab?
Okay, here is a perfect example, the blood-brain barrier. This is a huge one. For a drug that's supposed to treat, say, Alzheimer's, you absolutely need it to get into the brain. But for something like an antihistamine, if that gets into your brain, it causes that annoying drowsiness. Well, these predictive models can tell scientists right away if their virtual molecule is likely to cross that barrier, letting them tweak the design early on to get the exact effect they're looking for.
And then there's maybe the biggest drug killer of them all, liver toxicity. This is actually the number one reason drugs get pulled from the market after they've been approved. The software can flag whether a molecule might cause direct liver damage or, and this is super important, if it's going to mess with other common medications. That's a drug-drug interaction. Finding that out at the beginning is just absolutely critical.
On top of all that, you've got what scientists affectionately call the Goldilocks problem. See, a drug has to dissolve in water to get absorbed into your bloodstream, but it also has to be kind of fatty or lipophilic to get through cell membranes and actually do its job. It can't be too watery or too fatty, it has to be just right.
So what they're really trying to do is find that perfect ADM sweet spot. You've got these two opposing forces, aqueous solubility on one hand and lipophilicity on the other. And predictive modeling lets scientists digitally dial in that balance to find the perfect middle ground before they even make the thing.
So now that we can predict all these things, we can get to the really exciting part, designing the perfect drug.
And, we're not just talking about numbers on a spreadsheet here. It gets way more sophisticated. We're talking about going from 2D to 3D. Advanced software lets scientists build these incredible three-dimensional models of their drugs, called pharmacophore models. This lets them literally see how a molecule is going to fit into its target inside the body, almost like a key fitting perfectly into a lock.
So what's the end result of all this predictive work? What do you get? You get what's called a scientific dossier. It's basically this digital mountain of proof that you can take to regulators like the FDA. It shows them, hey, look, safety was our top priority from day one. We've already identified and managed the risks, and this drug was designed with incredible precision.
And when you zoom out, you see what this is all really about. This whole process, predicting safety, designing with 3D precision, it's the bedrock of the entire future of medicine. We're talking about precision medicine, where we can design drugs for specific groups of people, maybe even for your specific genetic profile.
So, what does this all mean for the future of medicine?
You see, it all comes back to that simple idea. By failing faster and cheaper in the digital world, we get to succeed sooner and way more safely in the real world. Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. As this technology gets better and better at predicting failure, can we eventually design a future where there are no bad drugs at all? A future where every new medicine that comes out is a success story? That's the ultimate goal.